All right, so that was my fake smile to start the video. Got that nailed. So I'm joined here today with Micah Birkholz. Micah is the director of sales at VistaDash. Is that correct? All right.
Yeah.
I'm the director of hair product at DealerKnows. And I'm really happy to have Micah on here. Micah is, again, like one of my favorite people. That's the beauty of having your own conference or unconference, wherever this is going to be, summer camp, because you get to pick the best. You know what I mean? And Micah is like one of the nicest dudes. Like he's like a cheek to cheek kind of hugger, which is really rare in masculine people. But he can talk shit with the best of them, So at the same time.
I'll do my best.
It's a superpower. So we're really happy to have Micah be a speaker with us. And I got to tell you, like, we would be remiss as two Midwestern dudes who are, I'm like a quasi outdoorsman. He's like a legit outdoorsman, to not talk about things that you'd have to deal with at camp, because growing up in a wet environment and being in a wet environment, he's in Minnesota, which ironically, you guys are having a blizzard warning right now, right?
Oh, big time. Yeah.
We have an ice storm warning here, but we're talking about summer camp. But I got to tell you, two like completely indispensable things that I feel like you got to have on a trip like this is bug spray, which I have an example. This is my favorite, DEET 100. Like it will 100% like alter your DNA. But this shit is amazing. It keeps the mosquitoes off. And I was one of those people who's like, oh, I'm going to use this is a good combo, bug spray, sun thing, whatever. This is great. It's Bullfrog. They discontinued it because it probably will also give you cancer. But
you actually turn into part frog.
After
you get gills after a while.
Exactly. But I'll tell you, when you're getting destroyed by mosquitoes, you will gladly trade any of the low DEET level stuff for high DEET. At least I will. I'm like, health be damned. I'll give up the last year of my life to have some level of comfort now. So if you're coming to summer camp, bring some bug spray. High DEET level's good. I find this off deep woods also. It's lower deep, a little less DEET in it. That's the chemical you want. Works well. Any favorites of yours, Micah?
So I can't remember the name of it, but it's called like green spray. And it's actually, and I know this is going to sound weird, especially from the yogi guy, but it's like essential oils without DEET, and it's got kind of like a vanilla-y smell to it.
Really? And
it is by far and away the best stuff that I've found. So I've tried the DEET, and I'm asthmatic. So if I have too much of a chemical, all of a sudden it's like I get that wheezy going. But this stuff, it's like putting on like remember like the little yellow Christmas trees you hang in the car? that vanilla-y smell.
That's car wash.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, well, we'll have to drop a link. We'll do that like it's YouTube, but not. But the other essential thing
below here.
Yeah, we'll drop the link below. Smash the like button. So the other thing that I would love his opinion on, and we'll get to camp stuff in a second, but the one of the things I found that's indispensable are good socks. So I am a snob. Anybody who knows and gets in the subject, I'm a darn tough lover, guaranteed for life. They come in all your favorite colors, olive drab, khaki, and black, all your favorite outdoor colors. But I got to tell you, I bit the bullet. They're kind of an investment, but that's pretty much all I wear every single day now. They keep your feet super dry. They keep the funk down, which is nice. And I love them. What's your favorite sock? Because you're a pretty hardcore runner, right, Micah?
So I've got a couple different pairs. Fit socks for like longer runs. They're cushioning really well. They're a little bit of compression on there on the arches and all that. Really good, really breathable. And then the 10,000, it's a workout brand clothing that has a really good, it's a thinner sock. So if you don't want something so heavy so you don't like overheat, but it's also got that moisture wicking that's really good. And then I have a couple compression recovery socks, which if you ever see like the old guys that are like
the hospital
with the hospital with the compression things all the way up, there's a reason that they put those on, and it is wonderful when your legs are like screaming, especially if you've been on your feet at camp all day long.
I'm thinking about doing a packing challenge. I want to do a 1-pack challenge. Maybe kind of fun to share our loadouts, just because one of the things about this camp, and I think you'll appreciate this because you've been to more conferences than I have probably, or being on the vendor side as long as you have. I hate the whole like playing dress up for going to conferences. And so one of the things that I'd love to do, I'm going to give like a demotivator badge for this, but if you can pack all of your clothes for camp in one backpack, I'm going to give a merit badge, I think, for that. And it's going to be cool. And
I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think you will excel at that probably. Mindful guy.
Well, I can do it, but the problem is that I have different types of running shoes for different types of conditions. So that's where it gets me. Is like you always joke about how many pairs of shoes did you pack? I've got 5 pairs of Cole Haans, because if you're in the car business and you're a man, you can only have Cole Haan shoes for some reason.
Guilty.
Yeah. So, but like that's the thing is I'm super excited about the fact that it's more of a camp, or like it's more like an executive retreat. I get more of that vibe, a lot of things too, than just like the standard DMSC conference, or I didn't mean to drop any other names. Sorry, any other conferences there.
We're conference agnostic.
Yeah. But there you usually like, how well dressed up are you? Like, do you have the full button up? What type of shoes are you wearing? Let me take a look at your watch. And here, this is not, I don't get that vibe. And that's what I really love about it. It's about knowledge transfer and being in the great outdoors, which I personally am a huge fan of.
Awesome. Well, outside of you being the runner yogi dude who rubs crystals on himself to keep the mosquitoes off and uses oil of thieves. Tell us about yourself.
Oh, wow. So, I think that's really how I usually describe myself. Is people say, like, what do you do? And that's what I do. Is I run, I do yoga, and I love being a parent and a partner to my spouse. And that's what I do. That's what I do for a living. Now, how I finance that is through the work I do with VistaDash and analytics and helping dealers get a clear view. But I really like just being involved, and I like being there to help people. So that's the other thing is like the aspects of camp really resonates with me from like a counselor, a Trailblazer type participant, is that you're there not just to talk about your subject matter, what you're a subject matter expert about, but you're there to really interact with people and find out what their needs are, how they can help guide them through the camp experience. And that's what I'm really starting to really vibe about is outdoors, being outside of a standard conference hall that's down the street from super expensive restaurants and bougie wine bars. Like this whole concept, it's a disconnect and it's an unplug, and being able to plug back into those basic things that we really need to focus on. And that's where, for me, this makes so much more sense than something like a super bougie experience.
Well, and I think there's a place for all those things. And when Joe and I have been talking about this for like literally more than a decade. And so, but a lot of it comes from sort of those other experiences we've had. 'Cause I mean, I've been there. We've both been to conferences as speakers. We've been there as dealer attendees. We've been there as vendor, folks manning a table and just floating around. And we've kind of seen all the aspects, and, even been on the sidelines kind of helping with content and things of that nature. But we just wanted to give just what you're talking about, like a way to sort of unplug and sort of re-engage with the material and with the people. And, we were talking about before we started recording. I mean, Mike and I think we probably met on Twitter, like all the cool kids in the mid 2000s, I think.
Yeah.
But I think, we had a great community in those early days of people who, whether they were just sort of embracing the early social media, but even going to those earlier conferences, like you hung out with the people, and it wasn't one of those things where you buggered off to a bougie wine bar. And that's okay. But I feel like, when, especially, Joe and I, we met at a conference. I think a lot of people probably don't know that. Like I was, as a vendor, he was still at the dealership at the time, and desperately trying to pitch in my technology. But we had that sort of communal involvement. When you went to a conference, you went there, you got the material, you kind of compared notes, you talked to your peers, and like, well, how do you apply this? This is something you do, there's a lot of those conversations. But then when it was all done, everybody went and like peeled off to the bar or wherever else. It was just, it was almost like a little bit more of a collegial experience in a way, where you just were there. Like it was all enclosed in like one place. And in this case with the camp, especially, like it's not enclosed anywhere. Like it's not a convention center. So it's away from the bright lights in the big city. yeah, it's probably a little bit of a pain in the butt to get to, but that's the trade-off, right? And now you can actually meet some peers and build your network and meet great guys like Micah that have a breadth of experience. Like, when did you get started in the car business? I forgot to ask you that.
Yeah, so I started selling cars in late 90s, around 1997.
Okay. Wow.
Actually, okay, so it's December 21st, 1997 is when I started selling cars.
It's the shortest day of the year, and you remember it.
I remember it because it was a week before Christmas, and I got what they pay like $7 an hour if you weren't selling anything. And I thought, why am I starting like the worst time in the year to start selling cars? It was a week before Christmas, and especially in Minnesota, which is covered in snow. But I had a young family. I was already a dad, and my dad turned to me and said, "Hey, you're not cutting it selling books over the phone. You should maybe look at selling cars." And so I took my dad's advice and applied at the local Denny Hecker's Stillwater Ford Lincoln Mercury, my hometown. And he said, "Just be careful. When you go there, they're going to train you to sell people cars the same day they're there." And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to be like high pressure. And it wasn't my background, but it became like the industry and the business that I really love. So I've been able to work my way up from sales into finance, into sales management. And then I went to the third party vendor side because I wanted to have weekends, and I didn't realize.
That's funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah, I just wanted a weekend, and then I could because I missed out on so much stuff with my kids and with my family. But then I realized when you're on the vendor side, you work just as much. It's just you might have a Saturday and Sunday together, but those Saturdays and Sundays you might be traveling all day, trying to get to where you're supposed to be in those meetings from Monday through Friday. So you start to learn that no matter what role you have and what position you have, there's going to be trade-offs. And you find out, what you're willing to have as part of that, as part of your life, and you accept it. So I went in from working at a little third-party site into I got to get into social media reputation management. I think that's when we really started connecting. Is the early days of social media with Twitter and Facebook pages where they had like gated pages and you had to use Facebook markup language in order to create landing pages on Facebook. And I was able to like create a space for myself where I started becoming a bit of somebody that carried a little bit of knowledge and was able to share it and then educate people on it. And that's kind of where my path's been until I got to where I am now with VistaDash. And it's a different take. It's more back to the basics of analytics and really trying to understand the why and the behavior. But it's been really great to be able to say, hey, yeah, I started selling cars, and guess what? We're always selling something. It's just a matter of what. So it's been an interesting transition over the past 25 years.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I think that it's crucial that you started like in the very beginning of online, sales, it's before digital retail, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, like, holy hell, like that's a lot of companies were founded like around that same time frame that we know of today. And one of the things I always like to tell people is this stuff isn't new. You know what I mean? Like it's something where I was in college back then, but these are things you study. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you were, looking at these, even though we're the same age.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I take a more indirect route. Nobody dreams going into the car business, by the way. But I mean, it's something like even then, like, I was working in venture capital in grad school in the early 2000s. We were funding these companies that we talked about today. Like they were still new then, but we're 20 years beyond that. And people still treat this as like it's new. And I think it's really crucial that you kind of been there at the very beginning of that arc, working with those super early adopters, bleeding edge, people, so to speak, if you want to use that terminology. But I think it's critical as a speaker and as being present at the camp, like people can tap into that knowledge, and kind of understand that, hey, this is what it's like. And especially the fact that you were in Minnesota. One of the people we were talking to, I haven't released the recording yet, that will come out, but we were just talking about the fact that like, you're not a big city, and so much of what we hear in this business is always like, this worked great for me in Orange County, California, or
exactly.
Worked well for me in Houston, or worked well for me in Miami selling, convertible Ferraris or whatever. And listen, that's all good knowledge to share as well. Like, I think we can learn from that. But I think, you and I have dealt with, hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of dealerships. I'm really close to 1,000 dealerships I worked with in my career. And you learn that they're all got their own DNA. They're all a little bit different. Yeah, and some best practices work really well across the board, and some don't. Like, they're not really applicable. So I think it's super cool that you started there and were able to sort of blossom into their career you're in today. Now, one of the reasons why we thought you'd be great to talk strategic marketing is just that, right? Because you worked at smaller agencies, you worked at regional agencies, you've got retail experience, which I think is always a good thing to have. But then also, like, you're exposed to a tremendous amount of analytics all the time. And so Joe and I say, like, hey, we're in discussion right now, like, is data really that sexy? Because I'm a data guy and I'm not sexy at all. So I don't know if that's sexy enough, but I think that gives you like a different lens to look, at this stuff through in terms of a marketing standpoint. Like, what could people, expect to take away from your
I think what you just said really made a huge was a real big piece of what is going to be part of like the theme is what works really good in Orange County is not necessarily going to work really well in Duluth, Minnesota, or Schaumburg, wherever you might be.
Shakopee.
Good old Shakopee. It's just down the street, don't you know? But that's the thing is that we start looking at the dealership, we look at cars, we look at that is the business that we're in, but we don't necessarily always focus and realize, well, my inventory is different than that person's inventory. I'm limited by this, they're not. So how am I going to compete when they have all more inventory, they got better allocation, they've got a bigger checkbook than what I could do? Well, one, your inventory is different, your position, your location. I mean, even something as simple as a river going through the city will determine whether or not people are going to go to your dealership. They're not going to cross a bridge. I mean, there's regional things that come into play. But not just that is you've got different people. So if you're just looking at the product, okay, what is the product that's going to help me to get my inventory moved? Well, that's one part of the equation. But if you don't have the people that are taking full advantage of those opportunities, then it's not necessarily a marketing or a strategic advertising partnership issue. It's a process issue. So how do you marry those with what resources you have? And everybody's different. I get that all the time. Just tell me, Micah, what are the 3 people I should sign up with? I get that a lot. And guess what? I can't do it. One, it makes me no longer vendor neutral. But secondly, what works for one dealership definitely will not, or doesn't necessarily going to work for the next dealership down the street. And what you're doing could be completely different and resonates and works with your people as opposed to the one down the street. So I think being able to say, one, what do we have? What are we working with? And then what's the opportunity with the different partnerships? So if you're looking at, hey, I just need to make sure that I'm getting as much leads as possible, that's one way of putting together your strategy, but it's short-sighted. And I think that by being able to balance out all the different opportunities and medias that people can connect with you, and that's going to connect and resonate with your people the best, that's how you can start to determine what a strategic marketing plan can look like by marrying marketing and process and people all together.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to tie a ribbon around that. And I think one of the things too, especially being like a Trailblazer and working in a smaller market and kind of having to navigate those waters, that's really what that's dedicated towards. And one of the things that Joe and I were really intentional about is trying not to like make this like a beginner advanced. It's like there's a tremendous amount of Venn diagram there. You know what I mean? And really, I think of myself, much like you, like we had to sort of figure this stuff out as we were doing it. I mean, I didn't get a retail for maybe like 5 years after you did, but a lot of the stuff we didn't, like we had dial-up when we first started, like they still handed out sheets. We didn't have a CRM. And so to sort of figure out how to target the right people took a lot of brute strength back then. You couldn't just go into Vin Solutions, export your list of clients or, whatever, and like, just do the math, even though people still don't do that today. But I think that that's a really unique way of being able to say, like, this is a strategy. And this is why it's important for us to call it strategic marketing. It's not just marketing, because there's not a Band-Aid approach. You can't just slap some duct tape on it and expect it to be fixed.
sign up with these providers and you'll be fine.
Exactly it, right? Like, oh yeah, you just pick this guy, and this gal, and you're good to go. And I've seen this with our clients over the years. Like, they try that and then it fails. It's a bad fit. It's a bad, and that's all it is, right? It's not that one person's worse than another one. But a lot of times it's not a good fit because the techniques and the tactics aren't, compatible with that dealership and their market. I think you hit on something important too with the people. A lot of times, like, you need the right people to execute. And that isn't always the case. And I think it's part of marketing. It's part of having the people execute on what's being put out there.
Yeah, I think what we've done in our industry to our own detriment is vilify vendors to some extent because it didn't work out, or the processes that we implemented didn't fit their product set, or vice versa. And I think that's what's happened a lot of times. I believe that everybody wants their product to work well for dealers. I know it's kind of like a shocking thing.
My heart skipped a beat right there.
Yeah, exactly. They want it to work. And they want it to work. They want it to work well. Why? Because then you retain them. If it doesn't work, you're going to get rid of them. So when everyone says, well, you're selling junk, it's like, or you start hearing people start to vilify the vendor and the product that they're selling, that person is still trying to do their job. They're trying to do a good job by you, by their dealer partners. And so I think that we need to be able to take a disconnect and say, hey, what is this product? What is the best process to utilize this process? And then how do we circle it all back in? So just like we send signals in Google Analytics, when somebody clicks on an ad and shares that behavior to optimize it, we need to be able to look at what those signals are that we're doing with our marketing to our process and people to be able to capitalize on those opportunities. Don't necessarily blame the vendor right off. Maybe we can optimize our own platforms and our own people within that program as well.
That's great. Great way to put it. And I think, looking at the conference itself, this is a great opportunity for people to, even if they can't catch a full session or they have to kind of pick and choose, like, a lot of the speakers are going to be available for just more than the time they're there. I can't speak for you, Mike. I don't know if you're going to go in and out because you're a busy guy, but a lot I know are going to stick around for the whole duration. And that's really where we're looking for those fireside chats and things of that nature, and just, have a beer, talk about it like two adult people. I think will be a great opportunity. And then plus all that will be augmented by folks like Micah, who we call cross-functional. Like, we're very intentional. Like I said, I like to use that word because Joe and I like to argue about this stuff, and people know it's like we will debate and it's fun because I love Joe like a brother, but we'll debate like what word to use in an email template, like for 15 minutes, Yeah. But we want to make sure, because that's one of those stone sharpens stone type of thing, or whatever the saying is. I don't know. You're a runner.
Iron sharpens stones.
Yeah, something really like that. But that's the advantage of having all these people who've got the depth of experience. So that way, you'll have a speaker like Micah, but then you'll also have a camp counselor who will also help you take what you learned from the other sessions and help you build a plan. And I'm hoping that everybody that comes to camp, who is, even if they can't catch a particular session, things of that nature, they have the opportunity to interact with some of the people like Micah who are going to be there, but then also come away with a plan. What's going to work well for me? What's something that's going to fit the DNA of my dealership? What's going to be something I put in motion tomorrow? And, do I need to be a data scientist to do that? No. But also understanding that and understanding tools like Micah's, like, we're actually not on the website yet, but we're putting together a team that's going to actually help people better understand the data and the research and all the things goes into that, because we got to do it all. We have to address everything. And I think there's probably a good analogy for Micah in terms of yoga or running. Both those things are things you don't just start doing. Am I right?
Right. Yeah. Well,
you don't dive into those poses like I'm seeing you behind you.
like these back here. No, that's what they call it, a practice. They call it yoga a practice for a reason. It's like every single day, it's different. And to go off that yoga analogy, is my practice that I did yesterday. I could have what I ate, how I hydrated, what I might have done for other activity before I go into the yoga studio. All those things affect how that session's going to be, and it's going to be different. Yesterday's yoga practice is going to be very different from today's. Today, I might not have ate what I was supposed to, drank what I was supposed to, and I probably maybe might have worked out too hard in my earlier workouts. So my yoga session it's all about balance, and I think that's what one of the key takeaways for yoga for me has been is the word balance. And balance isn't about not falling. Balance is about being okay with falling, because you get to that edge and you can feel it and you know, hey, I'm going to fall over. Right? I am not going to be able to stand on my one hand upside down in this position forever. I'm going to fall. And you got to be okay with that. So now when you go through the understanding what balance means to you, you're gonna have a partnership that might not work out. You're gonna be okay with failing. You're gonna fall. But now get back up, reassess the situation and what was different. How do I need to breathe, or how do I need to find a different way to work with this partner? All those things, just like yoga, and when you're working with the dealership, it gives you those opportunities to self-reflect and then move on with the next plan. But yeah, you just don't jump into it. It's a practice. I didn't just start running a lot. I started running a little. I actually started on the what are those things called? Where you got the feet go and the hands go at the same.
Stairmaster, they call them, or stairmaster.
Yeah. So like elliptical. I started off with elliptical.
I don't exercise. So I don't know.
Yeah. I started.
I go up and down the stairs of my house. That's why.
And that can be.
I swim in the summer.
You find what works for you and what's a priority, and that you just go with it, man.
I walk the car, take my kids places, walk back out of the car. That's where I get my steps in every day. So and Micah can laugh because he's got a big family too, so he can commiserate. So listen, man, that yoga analogy is such a solid one, and I really hope that people find that balance in the summer camp. We're going to have a lot of different people with diverse backgrounds, diverse cities, places from like Minnesota. I'm from Michigan. We have maybe a few extra Detroiters there. It's because of the industry, but we really want to bring just different people, different creativity, different entrepreneurial spirits in that type of environment, and then be able to focus on that. So it's not about, heading off and going to, get an awesome meal. I love an awesome meal. Micah likes an awesome meal.
I love a good steak.
He loves a good steak.
I love a good steak.
But we want to make it more about the camaraderie, building that community that we used to have. Like Mike and I used to have that, be part of that really awesome, strong community. Unfortunately, it's dissipated because people have gotten rich. And no, I'm just kidding. But we all grow up, right? So
yeah.
We're not in that crowd, right, Mike?
Some people had equity.
So, but in any event, there'll be a place for everyone at this event, and I'm super duper can't even stutter enough to spit it out to say I'm happy to have Micah on board. I think he's going to be a fun person. Are you going to stay for the whole time, by the way?
Yeah, that's my plan. I'm looking forward to it, because if there's a break to go check out some more hiking trails and other, I mean, that's the other thing. Just like we had said prior to, is just being able to go out and go for a hike in the woods. I mean, that in and of itself can be so invigorating and re-energizing, that especially when we've got all this subject matter that we're going through, and being able to just break it down and assess it on a nice hike, just even by yourself or with a group of people, it's just a great way to do it. So I'm excited for so many reasons about the idea of summer camp. It's like I look at all your books that you have behind you. Like I love reading, but I can only read nonfiction for so long. I need fiction. And I think that's the way I look at like this. That is, I need the nonfiction and the fiction. I need the fiction to like get my mind to think differently. Because nonfiction is always the same. This is my story. Here's a couple cute anecdotes. And this is what I did. This is how I made millions of dollars. And this is how you could be a better boss. Whatever it is. It's like every single nonfiction.
It just like turns to mush after a while.
Yeah, they all kind of follow the same kind of thing. But when you can like start reading fiction, you start thinking and you use your imagination, and that helps you understand different scenarios, different people, and different you get different emotional tugs and plays when you're reading a fictional story. I look at like having a conference at a campsite the same way. We've had the same in a conference center, in a hotel, the same. You're going to this room, you're going to this room, da, da, da. Like it's all regimented with the concrete jungle. Now you get to separate that, take those concepts and bring them into more that natural setting, which is a disruption in that space. And that's why I'm very excited about it. It's going to be able to, I think that the ability to gather more information and make it stick is going to have a higher probability from an experience like this.
Yeah. And listen, I don't know if you know this, but we're going to do like sports and stuff in the middle of the day, right? Like intramural games with the different.
I saw kickball.
So yeah. So, and I think you're going to have some pretty fit people on your team. So you might have guys have an advantage. I don't know. We'll see. But listen, there's one thing you touched on, and I want to get back to it before I let you go, is this idea of the vilified vendors and, understanding how these things work. And like I said, kind of being in all the different dimensions and understand there's a lot of vendor vilification that happens because some deserve it. I mean, let's be honest. Mike and I had to watch this guy last year at NADA, like literally like accost people. And we made a video that kind of went like viral for a couple of days about how bad this guy is. Mucho gusto. It gives all of us a bad name. So one of the things that we did is that we wanted to create the space for vendors, and so we're calling it Vendor Village. And so we're all the cabins at the campsite, the vendors are going to have the cabins, and they're free to do what they want to. I mean, within reason, they can't, put additions on and crazy like that. But listen, if you want to, I was talking to somebody last week, they were talking about smoking brisket at the cabin and having like smoked brisket available and like effing do it.
Well, my mouth just watered just
yeah, exactly. We've had people talk about doing margarita machines and things like that. And so really creating an open space, but also it's a space where it's like theirs. It can make it just as inclusive and do it in a way that's indicative of the company as well. Like when you're in these huge convention centers, I mean, we've all been to them. You can have the crazy, crashed UFO that some of these things have, but at the end of the day, it's still like in a 1 million square foot neon lit, noisy environment. Whereas like you can just, if you want to have a campfire and just have a s'mores thing going 24/7, 365, you can do it.
Yeah. But
then also those vendors can be part of your team, and they can be part of those hikes, and they can be part of doing yoga in the morning. They can be part of that too, because we all are part of the same community. And then for the people who haven't been in this industry a very long time, or God help you, started during COVID, it really is an ecosystem. And whether we like it or not, like we depend on vendors to give us that sort of scaffolding and substrate to build our businesses on. And so
it's a balance.
It is. It's a balance. Exactly. And so we're just as intentional about the vendors that we're going to have there. They're definitely not going to be off-brand in any way, shape, or form. But we really hope that people will collaborate, and vendors will take the opportunity to show new stuff and try to gather some additional details. And sorry that popped up. I thought I muted my computer. But it's like I've been doing this for like 15 years.
What is this mute button?
Exactly.
What is this? Why can I not hear people?
Yeah. So, okay, good thing is that when we're outside, we don't have to worry about those things. So, but we do hope that there's an opportunity for people to take that balanced collaborative approach and spend some time with these folks, and not for the sake that anybody's gonna make a sale or anything, but just to learn and share stories and share your individual experience at your dealership, so that way the products can get better. There's a couple neat things that Joe and I have had in the years, like with some of the CRMs, where like you can just click a button and go directly to LinkedIn. Like that's happened in the past. And I don't think some of those features are available today, but there was a time where you could work with your vendors and they put cool stuff in there. Like I was able to incorporate my lead scoring technology into CRMs pretty quickly. And it was a mutually beneficial thing for everyone. And so I hope people take advantage of that as well. And so that there's not, it doesn't become like a vendor fest as people call it, but really take the opportunity to meet those folks and get to know guys like Micah, to just better understand your business. And there's a wealth of information that he's shared over the years, just shares it because he's a nice dude. He's a cheek hugger. And
bring it in.
But we all want to help people out. I mean, that's why I love working with guys like Micah, because like he had to invent some of the same stuff I do, but we want to share it with people. Like there's nothing. Maybe I get a wee bit angry when I don't get equity like you, Maybe I'll leave that in there. But either way,
it's like that dog that meme with the dog that's surrounded and sitting at the table. The room's on fire. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
But honestly, I genuinely get a surge of happiness when I see an idea that I shared, or something I helped pioneer or build. Like I get super excited that somebody built it, and like maybe it sucks that I didn't get a helicopter out of the dealer or something crazy like that, but I'm just happy that dealerships can benefit from it, because I know how hard it was for me working in a really small town in the middle of nowhere trying to make this stuff work. And so it's cool that people don't have to go through that struggle anymore.
Yep.
That's why I said God help people that started during COVID, because it was like easy to get rich selling cars.
Yeah.
So,
and now things are changing, and
we're
seeing. Oh yeah, well, we're already seeing it when we start taking a look at inventory levels coming back, and you start looking at inventories are coming back. Wait, age on the ground is starting to go up again. Wait a second, what happened to 14-day turns on all inventory? I mean, you start looking at some of these numbers and start seeing these trends start to shift, and I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have to start selling again. We're gonna have to do more than just throw 10 grand over sticker price and wait for that person to come in and grab it.
Yeah, or Raptors.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, those things. So, well, like I said, happy to have you here, and I think for anybody who will be attending or is interested in attending, there'll be links to get to that stuff. But super happy to have Micah on board, and I think we're going to offer up a lot of great information that's going to help during these times as well, because I think this is something that Joe and I are seeing in our dealerships we work with every day, where there's a bit of a pivot. And the cool thing is you're going to have those people, those resources, those people like Mike and I who went through this back in the Great Recession, they remember this stuff all too well, there to help you sort of navigate those waters and understand, like, hey, it is not the end of the world. Like, it just means we have to approach problems differently, maybe incorporate a little traffic, behavioral data, things of that nature, but really put together a plan. And especially with strategic marketing, why that's relevant is making sure you bring in the right people for your dealership. And I think that's going to be a crucial thing that people are going to be able to learn while they're there, and just so happy to have you on board. All right. So we'll get the links to the socks as well, so people have those. Like, I just keep mine handy just in case I need to wipe my nose, because they're good for that too. But I did that for the lap. So, but thanks again for coming on board.
You bet.
Any parting words or parting wisdom here?
I'm really excited just to be a part of this, and it's gonna be fun. I've seen some of the other speakers and lineups, good human beings that are extremely knowledgeable in their fields, and are actually really great to hang out with. So I'm looking forward to kind of the disconnect and going to summer camp this year.
Well, thanks again, dude. Appreciate it. We will see you soon. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Bye con Dios.